Good evening and welcome to North West Tonight with Ian Haslam. Thank you for joining us this evening. Our top story: from opposite sides but hoping for lasting peace, we hear from Mark and Dalul as Gaza prepares for a ceasefire. Mark's community has experienced hatred. Dalul's baby has been pulled from the rubble 3 times. Also tonight, tackling nature's crisis. The National Trust celebrates 130 years with some ambitious projects here in the North West. Power to the people, the Lancashire village that's running its own show. Celebrating an inspirational teacher. Welcome to Mrs. Rackham's Music Room.
She was a brilliant teacher and she was a really positive, supportive person to be around, and I think that's why it's left such a big hole in the school community.
And while some of us held on to the cloud today, others did see it brighten. Will we see the sunshine this weekend? I'll tell you what, it will be chilly. Join me at the end of the programme for the rest of the details.
Peace can't come soon enough. Those are the words of Dalul, who's a Palestinian living in Bolton. His child has been pulled from the rubble 3 times and he's lost his mother, brother and in-laws. Mark also wants peace. He represents Jewish people across the Northwest. He says his community has lost loved ones in the Gaza conflict and experienced anti-Semitic attacks closer to home. Both are hoping Sunday's ceasefire will be permanent, as Mairead Smith reports.
Nasser Al-Jamal, aged 29, a husband and father. His cousin Jalul says he was killed just hours after the ceasefire was announced on Wednesday.
Nasser, it is being killed with a cold blood. He was so exciting, waiting the moment to go back to Jabalia and to see his house.
Jalul moved to Manchester from Gaza 8 years ago. Today he mourns many of his family who've been killed there, including his mother Halima and his brother Mohammed.
My beloved mum, my brothers, he's a solicitor. He left behind him 3 kids. My sister-in-law, she was pregnant.
His daughter Mila, now 1.5, was pulled from rubble in Gaza 3 times as a baby. Many more children like her, including this youngster yesterday.
The first time it was in October, in 27th of October, so basically she only was 4 months old, and the second time in December, 6 months old, and the third time she was about 9 months old.
Mila is now safe in Manchester with her mum and Jalul, who says Sunday's ceasefire can't come soon enough.
Honestly, we've been dying and waiting on fire to hear these words about the ceasefire, the announcement to be taking place straight away, immediately, not to be delayed for another 3 days. The delayed means more life will be taken, more people will be killed.
And Jewish communities in the Northwest hope the ceasefire will see the return of hostages taken after the Hamas attacks in October 2023.
Even around 48 hours before the ceasefire is due to come into effect, we have no idea which hostages are alive or not. It's obviously been a traumatic time for Jewish people here across the Northwest.
Mark says Jewish people have suffered anti-Semitic attacks here since the conflict in Gaza began.
So prior to October the 7th, we may have expected to receive around 100 reports of anti-Semitic hate crime a month. At the minute, it's between 200 and 300, so the level of hate has doubled and in some cases tripled.
After 15 months of fighting, both Mark and Jalul hope Sunday's ceasefire leads to lasting peace.
What I'm praying for is that there are some Western powers who can create some influence in Gaza. The internationally prescribed terrorist organisation Hamas are completely sidelined.
Live in peace and share our rights with each other. What they have right, we need these rights.
Mairead Smith, BBC Northwest Tonight, Manchester.
Now, the National Trust is 130 years old, and to mark its anniversary, the charity has announced ambitious plans for the next decade. It's promising to take unprecedented action to tackle climate change and the crisis in nature. Now, this follows the largest public consultation ever carried out by the Trust, and some of the biggest projects will be right here in the North West. Our environment correspondent Judy Hobson has been to see one in Lancashire.
The Great Barn at Gawthorpe Hall is 420 years old and a Grade 1 listed building. But it can't be used because the roof is in urgent need of repair. Now the National Trust plans to restore it, just one of dozens of projects that have been announced to celebrate the charity's 130th birthday.
It's an incredible space, yeah. We're really keen here at Gawthorpe to see this reopened.
But we've got to wear these hats because it isn't 100% safe.
No, so unfortunately this is part of the work that we're doing now, is the roof is in a position where it is starting to fall in. It was used for storing grain, so carts would have come in, dropped grain off, processed it, and then they could go out, so it was a one-way system. This is also one of the oldest ox cattle stores in the country, so we're really keen to see it opened up again.
The roof restoration will cost more than £1 million and includes a generous donation from a member of the public. It joins a list of projects that the National Trust has announced to kick off its 10-year plan. Also on the list is a new woodland at Lunt Village in Sefton, Merseyside. Work has already begun there to plant 91,000 trees. And Manchester's free-to-visit Sky Park at the Castlefield Viaduct will be extended.
We need to go bigger, we need to do more, we need to work harder. And we're going to be doing it with the help of our supporters, our volunteers, our staff and our partners. So we want to be able to restore nature, we want to be able to inspire people to take action where they live, and we want to be able to end unequal access to nature, beauty and history as well. That's our main goal, all in service of people.
I've lived here all my life. I'm quite lucky that I work here, so I get to see this building every day, but having this open to the public would be a really good addition.
The National Trust has ambitious plans to restore 250,000 acres of nature-rich landscapes and inspire more people to make the most of the natural environment as well as their cultural heritage. Judy Hobson, BBC North West Tonight at Gawthorpe Hall.
OK, let's look at some of the day's other news now. And a serial rapist has been jailed for at least 18 years after attacking 4 lone women at knife point in Manchester. Stuart Thompson from Stockport was found guilty of 3 rapes, an attempted rape and other sexual offences after assaulting all women beneath the Mancunian Way on a single night last January. He'd previously abused a 5-year-old girl. Sentencing him to life, the judge said Thompson had an intense hatred of women. A warning's been issued to the public about the risks of commenting on social media about the upcoming Southport attacks murder trial. 18-year-old Axel Ruda Cabana faces 16 charges, including the murders of 3 young girls at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in July. The Attorney-General says any post that could influence a jury could lead to criminal charges. The trial starts at Liverpool Crown Court on Monday. Well, it's home to possibly the oldest established Chinese community in Europe, but Liverpool's Chinatown is also a high street and one which is suffering as older business owners retire and younger family members look for work elsewhere. So now the question is, how can the decline be halted? Well, the council's hoping that it's found a solution by using cash from developers to fund regeneration. It's an issue that Sunday Politics have been looking into. Here's Claire Hamilton.
Banging the drum for Chinatown. It's been the historic home of the Chinese community in Liverpool for more than 200 years. But while this arts and cultural centre is definitely lively, the neighbouring streets are anything but.
I think Chinatown is known as the older Chinese community in Europe, but now a lot of the people getting older, retired, and the children got other jobs. Like I said, they're now not working on the catering anymore. So it's not how it was.
Few of the 400,000 visitors who come to see this incredible arch spend their money in Chinatown. Businesses here are struggling for survival and half are permanently closed. Young entrepreneurs like Kin are keen to change things.
It's kind of a dead end, as you said. It's a physical dead end, so the road stops there with bollards. So if that's kind of cleared through and it links the top of Ball Street right through to the Baltic. I think that would be really helpful.
And what about Chinatowns in other British cities? Manchester, of course, and London?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but they do have very good Chinatowns.
A decade ago, this was the big regeneration hope for Chinatown. New Chinatown, a development with hundreds of homes right here. But the businesses involved failed, and after years of legal wrangling, Liverpool City Council's brought the land back with hopes of starting afresh. And it's hoped using Section 106 contributions, money from developers, will then attract new neighbours for this, the only restaurant serving Chinese food during the day on this street.
It'd be really nice to see it come back and attract all the locals back to the area and see it become more lively, like it used to be back when the arch got put up around 2000.
What's the point of having a Chinatown? You know, there are Chinese restaurants in lots of different places.
So I do think this is important. It's very important to preserve this history, essentially.
Claire Hamilton, BBC North West Tonight, Liverpool.
We're surrounded by wonderful portraits now, and that's because the faces of people from Manchester's Jamaican community have appeared in a major new artwork by the artist Barbara Walker at the Whitworth Art Gallery. The portraits are of first and second generation Windrush migrants who settled in the city after moving from the Caribbean, and they all appear together on a giant wallpaper. Phil Cunliffe has been to take a look.
Paintings, drawings, reflecting the lives and struggles of Britain's Afro-Caribbean communities. On show here are some of Barbara Walker's most renowned works of the past 25 years. And now there's this, a room wallpapered with portraits of immigrants who arrived in Manchester as part of the so-called Windrush generation.
I was actually born in Manchester, Jamaica, and ended up coming to Manchester, England.
The Empire Windrush brings to Britain 500 Jamaicans. Many are ex-servicemen who know England.
My dad came first, my mum followed 2 years after, and then 2 years after that I came with my older brother. I was actually only 5 at the time.
Sonia is one of 6 chosen by the artist to be drawn in graphite and crayon. Her gaze is optimistic, but it's sometimes been a struggle to be accepted.
Being made to feel as though I didn't belong here. There was discrimination in finding jobs. I sounded English on the phone, and then I turn up and I see a black face and everything changes, and I didn't get the job.
I came here because of my girlfriend, which eventually she became my wife, and we're still together. She came here before me, and I followed her.
Roy is 87. He was just 20 when he came to the UK.
I'm trying to portray the emotions when we had great difficulty in finding housing. No dogs, no Irish, no blacks. It was very difficult at that time. There was racism, yes, but I tried to overcome it.
And how did you do that?
Just ignore it.
Barbara Walker is a Turner Prize-nominated artist. Her art explores themes of racism and discrimination and is widely admired.
When you see the enormity of the pictures, the drawings, which are just immense, it just brings home how appalling we've treated people in this country.
I think it's very thought-provoking, and yeah, I was quite surprised to see the effect of it.
Very moving and dramatic illustration of what black people have been through over the years, so it's brilliant.
To see yourself in this wallpaper, what does that mean to you?
Visible recognition of being here. I belong here, and I'm here to stay.
The exhibition is on at the Whitworth Art Gallery on Oxford Road in Manchester until the 26th of January. Phil Cunliffe, BBC North West Tonight.
Looks really good, that, doesn't it? Still to come, Richard has the sport. But before that, if you thought community spirit was a thing of the past, then this next report might just convince you otherwise. That's because people living in the Lancashire village of Trawden, near Colne, run more of their own services than anywhere else in the country. Sounds like my kind of place, this. It includes things like the community centre, a shop and a pub, importantly. And now their exploits are attracting worldwide attention, as Stuart Pollitt reports.
Trawden is unique, a place that's taken community ownership to the next level.
As far as we know, we are the only village with a community centre, a shop, a library and a pub in community ownership.
But you have the empire here.
Yes. Yeah, it's great.
The story started a decade ago with Stephen.
Our local authority, Pendle Council, announced that they were going to close the community centre, and would a community group be interested in taking it over. I'll never forget taking the keys on the 7th of October 2014 and thinking, my goodness, what have we done?
But the villagers refurbished the library building and realised their plans could work. When the last village shop closed, the community decided to open their own.
2 cards. 2 cards. Now where are cards on here?
It's now staffed entirely by volunteers like Pat and Gillian. Molly has to coordinate them all.
The name is still at the top, so how do we get rid of that? We need 68 different volunteers just to do 1 shift a week to keep the shop open, which is a big ask. But it's lovely, people look out for each other. There is a real sense of community, and that is a lot to do with the community centre and the shop being here.
Today the community centre's busy with a group of bowlers. It's also a place where older residents like Lily can seek support from Helen.
Well, it's lovely to see you looking so well. You did have us worried. It's working in the community that I love, with people that I love. And it can be anything. I mean, at the moment, I've got people who are struggling with hearing and they can't make a telephone call, they can't hear me. So I can go around, I can speak to them, I can find out where we can go from there, whether it's liaising with families or just helping that individual, because a lot of people are completely on their own.
Villagers have really invested time and money in their community. Out of a population of around 2,000, more than 100 are regular volunteers in the various services. More than 400 spent their own money to help save their local pub.
We needed to raise, round numbers, £500,000.
No free pints for them, though?
No free pints. Not even for me. I do it all for love.
Could other places easily follow Trawden's example?
It would be easier if local authorities and county councils made it easier to take over redundant public buildings. I do believe it's the way forward for small communities. We'd have none of these services now if we as a charity hadn't taken them on.
And this community is showing that joining forces can build more than just bricks and mortar. Stuart Pollitt, BBC North West Tonight, Trawden.
They're very proactive there, aren't they? But no free pints, which I suppose you wouldn't expect anyway, would you? Yeah, here's a man who does expect free pints. He demands them everywhere he goes. Richard Askham is here now. And Rich, we've seen some long, lucrative contracts throughout the Premier League. Cole Palmer, here at the BBC. Cole Palmer had a 9-year deal at Chelsea. Sam Allardyce famously signed a 10-year deal as Bolton manager. I wish he'd come back, actually. That was some years ago. But the new contract Erling Haaland has signed at Man City, that blows everything out the water, doesn't it?
It really does, yeah. A 9.5-year contract worth a reported £500,000 a week that will keep him at the Etihad Stadium until 2034. The Norwegian, along with his team, might not have been at his devastating best so far this season, but overall his record is remarkable. 111 goals in 126 games for the Blues. And as you can imagine, the boss, who signed a new deal himself 2 months ago, didn't he, is delighted.
It's an exceptional news for all of us, for the club. So when one player decides to sign this type of contract never had done before, it's because he want to show how desperate want to be here.
City travel to Ipswich on Sunday, with Manchester United welcoming Brighton to Old Trafford. Fresh from last night's 3-1 win over bottom club Southampton, United made hard work of it, having to come from behind to take the points. A late hat-trick from Amad Diallo, securing all 3 points for the Reds. Everton also play on Sunday at home to Spurs, with Liverpool at Brentford tomorrow. There's a huge game in the Championship for Burnley tonight, though. The Clarets will go to the top of the Championship if they beat promotion rivals Sunderland at Turf Moor. Scott Parker's men are unbeaten in 14 matches. Liverpool women host Brighton in the WSL. Rugby League now, and Salford Red Devils say they remain confident they'll find a way through one of the most challenging periods in their long history. The RFL has halved the Red Devils' salary cap, ordering them to sell players immediately. It follows continuing uncertainty about their stadium finances and investment. But as I found out today, the club is hopeful that a takeover is getting ever closer.
And a try from Joe Bibby!
In recent seasons, Salford Red Devils have regularly punched above their weight, with 2 major finals in the last 5 years. But after major cuts to their budget, are once again up against it.
It's soul-destroying. But I do believe we're still on a forward trajectory. There is reason for optimism. There are people in the background, and I cling to that. We're pushing really hard to get that done and get that over the line.
Doubts over the club's future finances has led the RFL to cut Salford's sustainability cap, effectively the amount they're allowed to spend, from £2.1 million to £1.2 million. With uncertainty over the club's future at its stadium, purchased by Salford City Council in September, but with revenue streams still unclear, the key issue.
I can point the finger at the council as much as I want. It's not really them. They have 20,000 different things to worry about. I have a rugby club. I'm just trying to make us as successful as we can, and I'm pretty optimistic that will still happen.
In a statement, Salford City Council said, "We will continue to support, engage and work with Salford Red Devils, the RFL and any potential investors in the club." Whatever the ins and outs, for the Red Devils' loyal fans, thinking that their talented team could be dismantled is very hard to take.
I've been a fan for 60 years, I'm a fifth generation. Do anything for the club, so here we are, we'll try again. Until we go out and shut this door and take the Salford sign down, I've got hope.
There's no doubt that Salford Red Devils find themselves in an extremely precarious and worrying position, but this is a club that has come through some very tricky times in the past before, and despite everything, there is a confidence here that they can do that again. You're confident you're going to come through this one?
Yeah, I'm in.
No hesitation?
No. There are people in the background waiting to come in. I believe that they will.
And with their first match against St Helens less than a month away, Salford supporters will desperately hope that that is the case. They really will, Ian. I'm hoping there will be some good news before too long that really could mean that Salford don't have to sell those really talented players. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, Paul King, very, very honest with you there, wasn't he?
He really was.
Let's really hope it turns out for the best. Thank you very much, Rich. When Kate Rackham died from a secondary breast cancer, a powerful final social media post in which she summed up her thoughts about her life and death made her known around the world. But among family and friends, she was known for something else, as a huge fan of music. And now, to mark that, the Stockport school where she taught has opened a new music room in her memory, as Katie Barnfield now reports.
1, 2, 3.
A special memorial for a very special teacher. Kate Rackham taught here at St Joseph's RC Primary before she died. Her old classroom has now been reopened as a music room in her honour.
I think it's lovely. Kate loved the music and this was Kate's classroom. I can't think of a better way to pay tribute to her, really.
For the first gig we went to, she wanted us to go to one that she liked, not what we liked. So we went to the Blossoms. So she said, if you ever get asked where was your first gig, we'll say Blossoms and it'll be like a good thing to say and stuff. Yeah.
After being diagnosed with secondary breast cancer, Kate began sharing her experience on social media under the handle Teacher with Cancer. Her final tweet, leaving behind a message to followers after her death, was seen over 1 billion times. She also co-founded the Fighting to Be Heard Foundation, trying to raise awareness of the cancer.
It was only really after she died I realised how far her reach had gone, and I had messages from people all over the world. I had messages from local people who she'd helped who didn't realise that she lived locally. And then, you know, conversely, I had messages from people on the other side of the world who she'd helped as well.
Just how beautiful life can be.
As well as a performance of one of her favourite songs, the Mrs Rackham room was opened with her former pupils sharing their memories.
Mrs Rackham was so supportive of all of us and was always by our side when we needed help. When I think of her, I feel sad but also happy. She helped me get through the most difficult time of my life, when my dad died. I will always be thankful to her. Thank you, Miss Rackham.
She was a brilliant teacher and she was a really positive, supportive person to be around. And I think that's why it's left such a big hole in the school community. But she'll be remembered here for a long time.
If I'm to inspire,
Now this room and the music made here is another way her legacy lives on. Katie Barnfield, BBC North West Tonight in Stockport.
What a gesture by the school, and what a legacy Kate leaves. Right then, it's time for the weather, and here is Kate Crewdson in the corner.
Thank you.
Kate, my instincts tell me it's going to be cold this weekend.
That's because I've just told you.
You've just told me.
So he lies. But he is right, he listened. It is going to be a chilly weekend. Quick look at your photographs before we move on. So, oh, goodness me, a slight tease for 25 in 25. I'm not going to tell you too much about it, but Susan G in Davy Hume Park, photograph here. I may or may not have been with her. You'll find out more next week. Karen Shed, Croston in Lancashire, saw some lovely spells of sunshine. Some of us did hold on to the cloud, and that is how we're looking for tomorrow as well. Thank you for sending those photographs in. Join me on socials or become a BBC Weather Watcher. Let me know what it's like where you are. So this weekend, it's going to be a colder weekend than we've had. It will be mostly dry. I say mostly, we're looking at a little bit of patchy rain later on Sunday. Now, tomorrow, what we're going to see is this cold air that currently is in Europe. As high pressure pushes away, we pull that colder air up. So for a brief time, it really will be quite chilly. And we start to get that milder air pushing back in again into next week. Overnight tonight, we're looking at variable amounts of clouds, some mist, some murk, cloudier skies for the Isle of Man, a little bit breezy here. We are looking at gusts as we head overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning on the Isle of Man for around about 20 to 30 miles per hour. Light winds elsewhere. Under clearer skies, Merseyside will drop down to freezing, so there will be a patchy frost tomorrow morning. But it will be a dry day. Now, we're looking at variable cloud, misty and murky conditions for some. Again, the Isle of Man, we're going to hold on to milder air here with a lot of cloud. Temperatures around 8 degrees. The colder air that's come up from the south, though, you'll notice that through tomorrow. Highs of just 3 or 4 degrees. Now, as we head through Sunday, later on Sunday, here's this cold front. It's going to start to push our way. It will weaken all the while. So by the time it gets to us through Sunday evening, we're looking at patchy outbreaks of rain that will linger as we head into Monday morning. But amounts at this stage, anyway, look to be small. Sunday, though, a much cloudier day across the whole of the region. Quite low cloud, so misty and murky once again, and feeling colder. Temperatures through Sunday. I mean, for some spots, Burnley, 2 degrees. It's going to feel more like below freezing, given all that cloud. Once again, for the Isle of Man, you're staying ever so slightly milder. And then Monday, it looks like we'll see some patchy outbreaks of rain and drizzle. Wet and windy weather later in the week. That's your forecast.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Apparently, you're getting out the building 25 times this year, and as a result, there's less havoc in the office. Tell us what you're going to be doing. 25 in 25. If you've got a place, a person or a thing in the North West you think I should come and see, let me know. nwt@bbc.co.uk. Let her know. For both of us. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.